Okay, let's draw some noses. The nose is, some people, I'll demonstrate something that I've heard before, and I don't know that it's always helpful, but sometimes it's nice to figure out what are the basic shapes that are involved when we're drawing something. So if you think of the nose as three spheres side by side, there's a nostril, and then there's the round middle part. You can pretend the light's coming from this way. You can sort of start to shade as if you're shading a sphere. Right? And it's not going to always perfectly work like this, and maybe it's fair to say that usually it doesn't actually work like this. If you draw three circles every time you draw a nose, it does give you some guidance, but it also can sometimes make your noses look a little overly round, and in that sense maybe kind of silly. But for a starting point, it's not a bad way to give yourself some strategy. Okay, the darkest parts usually, not always, of the nose are going to be the nostrils themselves. And the edges of the nose are not going to be drawn like lines. They're going to be shading. So, and there's the other challenge with if you do this, do the circles, is you don't really want to leave them in there if you're trying to make it look like a real nose, because real noses don't have circles around them, right? But anyway, that's one technique to help you get started. But the most important thing when you're drawing noses, maybe it's not the most important, but one important thing is watch for your dark lines. If you need dark lines to start yourself off, you want to use the edges of the nose. The nostril is where you will usually find some dark lines. Not always, though. So you have to kind of be careful with it, because sometimes there aren't any dark lines on the nose. But yeah, so if you can use the nostrils as a starting point. And then just pay attention to how the light's hitting the particular nose that you're trying to draw. And a lot of times you're going to draw around. You're going to show the shadows around and the skin tones around the nose, more so than you're going to actually outline. Let's try to... Should we do a side view, or should we... Let's try to do some different shaped noses. Let's play around with this bottom portion, and before we draw a whole lot of noses, let's just play with that shape. So let's say we go, sometimes the nose maybe comes down a little bit like that. Or maybe it's a little wider. How would this end up? Sort of a little slightly interesting nose. hangs down a little bit. Kind of fun. And this one is not going to be hanging down as much. And let's try to purposely make the shape of the nostrils quite different on this one. So if you know how to shade a sphere, you know how to shade a nostril. Let's pause on